Welcome back alongside Zach Robinson. I'm Mike Renner. Today we're going to be talking about our rankings of all 32 secondaries in the NFL. Full article is up on the website right now, but we're going to go through and talk about some of the highlights. And we're going to start with the top five. At number 5, it was the Atlanta Falcons, who really have no holes in their secondary. They drafted Isaiah Oliver in the second round. He might not even see the field. So they're obviously been one of the best secondaries in the NFL for a while now. Number 4, Baltimore Ravens. Similar deal. They have Marlon Humphrey from a season ago that they drafted in the first round. He might not even crack the starting lineup. Tavon Young, who was so good in 2016. Similar deal with him. He might not see great playing time this upcoming year. But number 3, the team we want to talk about here is the Los Angeles Rams, who may have improved more than any other team in the NFL on that back end over the course of this offseason.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They got the most exciting guys up front, and in the secondary, they added Aqib Talib at corner, Marcus Peters, 2 absolute playmakers on the football, guys that can play man coverage. A year ago, the Rams were not very good playing man coverage. They were in the bottom third of the league in yards per attempt, so it was clear they needed to get better at man coverage. You look at Nickel Robbie Coleman. You got 3 instinctive guys that really like to sit on routes and are willing to take gambles. So if you're a defense or if an offensive coordinator, you're trying to get double moves to try to get past these guys because they are so instinctive to sit on stuff underneath. It's pretty scary as a QB.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what Wade Phillips does with these guys, with all these weapons at his disposal, because we saw how good that 2015 Broncos defense was and how willing he was to just sit and play man coverage and say, my talent is better than your talent. And now he has that in Los Angeles with those corners. You know, no offense to Tremaine Johnson. He's a fine corner in his own right, but these are upgrades at both positions there.
Yeah, big time upgrades. I mean, across the board, the safety position too with LaMarcus Joyner and John Johnson, just solid across the board. It's going to be hard to see where you attack this defense.
Oh, for sure. On to number 2, Los Angeles Chargers. They have Casey Hayward, our highest graded cornerback in the NFL. Added Derwin James to the mix at safety, our highest graded safety coming out, top 5 pick. We think he's a sure thing. Those cornerback groups go 5 deep there. Very impressive stuff at number 2. But number 1, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. A.J. Boye, Jalen Ramsey. It's really hard to argue against them.
Yeah, this team facing them a year ago, you did not want to face them. They could play man coverage, so multiple with their scheme. They play quarters. They do everything. Jalen Ramsey, Tayshaun Gibson, A.J. Boye. They lose Aaron Colvin in the slot, and they'll have D.J. Hayden filling in. So there's a little, downgrade. But if he can just play average, the rest of this secondary is so good, it's really not going to matter.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, because that was such a big thing for the Jaguars last year. There was no weak spot to attack. There was no hole where you could say, we're going to attack this guy, and that's why they had to target those cornerbacks on the outside so much. And when you targeted Boye and Ramsey a season ago, opposing quarterbacks had a passer rating of 36.8. So it was futile to even do so. But now you have that D.J. Hayden slot to where maybe there's a weakness, but still I'm not sure it's really going to matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. They do so many things at the linebacker level really well to kind of help out that spot too. So they're just a great scheme, great players that can play off, press, anything. So it's a tough defense to face.
That's the top 5, though. Let's go to the other side of the coin, the teams towards the bottom of this list that have playoff aspirations but could feasibly be held back by that secondary, by that back end on the other side of the ball. And the first one I'm looking at is at number 23, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, no, they're in a tough spot. You know, they draft Terrell Edmonds in the first round. Surprise pick by a lot of people, but you look across the board, they've got just kind of an okay defense. Joe Hayden, hopefully he can kind of elevate his play. Had some good spurts last season. But, in terms of what they were doing schematically, they've kind of gone away from a lot of the spot drop zone types where they're matching up stuff underneath. I think that's why they like Terrell Edmonds out of Virginia Tech. A lot of the same stuff he was doing there. So, fairly average across the board.
Yeah, they had Sean Davis last year starting at safety. He was the lowest graded safety in the NFL by us. So they kind of just throw in. They signed Morgan Burnett this offseason, like you mentioned, drafted Terrell Edmonds, just seeing what sticks there at safety because it can't really get worse, but still some question marks on the outside with you, like you mentioned, Hayden, also Artie Burns there, and then Mike Hilton in the slot. So while it's probably not a liability of the back end like some teams, I do think it's still not going to win them. They're not going to be winning games with their secondary this year. The other team I'm looking at is number 27, the Green Bay Packers. Obviously have playoff aspirations every year, Super Bowl aspirations every year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. But now they have sort of hope in the back end, even though it's still ranked 27th because so many rookies there, but there's at least hope in Green Bay.
Yeah, definitely. This is the group that can potentially elevate into a top half of the league and maybe even further based on the rookies, but never like to rely on those guys too much. But Jair Alexander out of Louisville, Josh Jackson out of Iowa, two great players that can play off press. We saw Josh Jackson, just his ball production alone at Iowa last season. Impressive guys. So they definitely have some guys that have the instincts to play. Now it's just a matter if they can get that thing all tied together as rookies and be expected and counted on early on.
Yeah, you never want to rely on rookie corners, but we've seen guys like Marshawn Lattimore in recent years, Tre'Davious White hit the ground running and be elite players immediately. If they can get anywhere close to that out of those two guys, and even Kevin King, who played with a shoulder injury most of his rookie year a season ago, if any of those guys take steps forward, they could be much higher than 27th by the end of the year. And then the other team down at the bottom, Kansas City Chiefs. Lose Marcus Peters, you're just not you're gonna take a step backwards.
They're in a tough spot. You know, they get Kendall Fuller from Washington in the Alex Smith trade. He's a great slot corner. Are they going to have him play a lot more outside? I would guess so for what they're expecting. And then across the board, you're getting Eric Berry back, David Anderson and David Amerson and Steven Nelson. So a lot of just really average guys there. Yeah. They love to play cover one man-to-man in the past. So are they going to be able to do that? Or are they going to have to kind of back off and keep things in
That's the
front?
most worrisome thing, is that they play man as much over the past few seasons as any team in the NFL, and you lost your by far best man corner.
Yeah.
And you just can't play man if you don't have, like we mentioned with the Rams, you can't play man if you don't have the guys to do it, because you got to match up one-on-one. You got to be winning those one-on-ones. If you're not doing it, it's going to get ugly real quick. On to the most improved team. We already talked about the Rams being the most improved team, but I think also the San Francisco 49ers deserve some love for what they did over the course of the offseason and basically adding Richard Sherman, the sort of the crown jewel of this free agency period. I still think, even though coming off of an Achilles injury, he's going to be at the top of his game. For his career, he's allowed a passer in against a 53.0, and he's going to a scheme in San Francisco that's identical to what he's ran in Seattle over his career.
Yeah, exactly. The prototype for the cover three scheme that Seattle's basically spread throughout the entire league, it seems like now. But is he going to come back to the same level of play? I think, Achilles injuries now, it seems like guys can come back and play at a stronger level than maybe in the past. So love the Richard Sherman, Kilo Witherspoon from last season, the rookie out of Colorado last year. Had a good solid season, kind of another tall, long, gangly corner. So in terms of that cover three scheme where they mix up man and cover three, you got two guys on the outside that are long and really athletic.
Yeah, 2'6" corners, both with 33-plus-inch arms. You're going to have their own Legion of Boom sort of brewing there in San Francisco. That's why they come in at number 11 for us. And sort of the opposite end of that, the biggest faller on our list was the Seattle Seahawks. They go to 21 here. You lose Cam Chancellor to retirement. You lose Richard Sherman after you cut him and he goes to San Francisco. Legion of Boom is no more.
Yeah.
And there's really, now they've sort of tried to pick up the pieces with some free agent signings, drafting Shaquille Griffin a season ago, but it still doesn't look nearly the same as it has been years past.
It's interesting. It's a lot of guys that you don't know much about. I mean, we have some good sample sizes, but to the general public, it's a lot of just names. And so, Byron Maxwell, can he elevate his play and step up in one of the opposite corners? Shaquille Griffin had a great rookie season. I think he'll build on that. And then Bradley McDougall, filling in for the Cam Chancellor role, played pretty well in some spots, but obviously you got a huge drop-off from Cam Chancellor.
It's not Cam Chancellor, but still have Earl Thomas, still have some hope there. They're our 21st-ranked secondary. Make sure to go to ProFootballFocus.com to check out the full list of all 32 teams.